prepared. Now hit it. This is the real it. This is the moment. It's our time to shine. Go.
Okay. Hello, my name is V. Signorelli.
And my name is Joseph Ray.
And welcome to From Queer Pages, a podcast where we, two literary queers, read and discuss historical queer-way novels.
In this episode, we will be introducing ourselves. We'll be talking about our friendship. We'll be talking about queer books. And we'll be talking about, most importantly, our plan for this podcast. So I will start us off and tell you guys a little bit about me. So my name, as I said, is Joseph Ray. I go by he, him, they, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, pronouns. And yeah, I am a queer Chicano from Los Angeles. If you guys are not familiar with Chicano, you can Google it because that's not my problem exactly. But it's also more directly tied to Mexican Americans. So yes, I am super queer. I am a writer. I'm a reader. I am a geek, perhaps. I don't know. I am. I feel like I'm reciting a poem. I am.
It's a beautiful poem.
Thank you. I'm a Lambda literary fellow. I think that's my term. I went to the Lambda Literary Retreat, which was a queer writers retreat. Awesome, super great time. And yes, I also, for a good amount of time, made videos slash blog posts slash Instagram posts about queer books for like a long time. That is how V and I met, but we will get into that in a little bit. I started off by talking about just young adult books, and then I got really passionate about queer YA books because they were not as prevalent, though there still was a lot of them. They weren't as prevalent. This was like around 2015. And since then, it has boomed. That world has boomed, and it's been very exciting to see. I have not been, I guess, blogging or blogging or vlogging for YouTube. I don't know, whatever. Very often recently, for the last, honestly, like 2 years or so, because of academia, because of mental illness, because of just life trauma, and being an adult in this world that is gross. So yeah, but I'm currently trying to figure out my life. I'm currently trying to focus on things that I love, which is I love watching movies and TV shows. I love it. I've seen like a trillion of everything. My greatest, aside from books, generally, my greatest and deepest obsession is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I am a self-proclaimed Buffy scholar, if you will. I love it so much. I was actually just watching, I mean, not to not trauma, but I was watching the episode about her mom. Okay, anyway, it was just a lot. And
yeah.
Yes, I love Buffy so much, and that's a big part of my life. I also am a writer, as I said, but I haven't been writing as much. You know what? It's I'm trying, okay? I'm trying to do my life, and it's just hard. I've been creating art recently. V has seen some of
So
it.
good.
It's a thing. My goal
No,
is
it's
to
actually
open
so good.
a
Like, it's amazing.
my goal is to open a sticker shop, an online sticker shop. So you can look into that. You can like look into it on, I guess, Instagram at Moon Mist Prince. I mean, we'll probably put it somewhere, but maybe not. We'll see. And yeah, I'm just here. I'm queer. I am suffering, but I'm I'm doing also better than I have been in a long time. I'm super excited about this project specifically, this podcast. I love V so much. I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And yeah, you can find me. I mean, I might mention at the end of the episode, but you can find me at Twitter at Joseph Jess Ray. That's Joseph, and then JESSREY. I haven't been exact active on there, but you can find me there, so we can be friends. And yes, now V can take it away and tell us about themselves.
Yay. Okay, well, my name is V. Signorelli. I use they, them pronouns. I am a queer, white, trans masc person from St. Paul, Minnesota. I am the co-founder of YA Pride, yapride.org, which is a website that's a website that's dedicated to promoting and discussing LGBTQIA+ plus young adult literature. I've been running that since 2011. I initially started it with my sister, and then I took it over in like 2015, and now I run it with my lovely co-moderator Caitlin Mitchell, who's fantastic. And so yeah, definitely check that out. We do a lot of guest posts, interviews, book lists, stuff like that. You can follow us on Twitter at YA_pride, and on Instagram, I think just at YA Pride. I don't know for sure. I should know that. But yes, for lots of queer YA content. I'm currently a senior in college. This is supposed to be my last year, but it's probably going to take me a little longer because, yikes, things are rough and school is really hard right now. So we're making it through, but it's been a time. Yeah, I guess also I I care a lot about like trauma recovery and just mental health stuff in general and things like that. So yeah, I like to talk about that and read about that and all of that. And you can find me on Twitter at findmereading, and on Instagram at find.mereading, I believe. I love that I don't know my handles. Yes, so that's who I am. So for every podcast, we wanted to do as kind of like a small, fun check-in for how we're doing each week, or every 2 weeks, as it turns out. um, that's like a one of those like tag yourself memes. I don't know how to describe it better than that, but it's like where you have a range of different images or words or whatever, and you like it's like tag yourself and like tell us what you are right now, or yeah. So we're gonna try to do those for each episode. I completely failed to get one for this time, so I don't know if you have one, Joseph, but
I do. I can tell them about mine while you rack your little brain or your big brain. It's actually a very large brain. It's a beautiful large brain. Um, yes. So, who am I this week? I am okay. You might have seen the video on TikTok. It's been a very popular sound, but it's just basically a woman, and she's in her car, and she just is like being very somber, and then she just says, I want to be appreciated. I want to be appreciated. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can literally look up I want to be appreciated on YouTube, and you'll see it's a woman. She has glasses. She's in her car, and it's like also really sad, kind of, but also beautiful and relatable. And I was considering. I feel like I've been talking about it a lot recently, even though I it's not at all related to the woman herself. I just been thinking about that how relatable and funny it is. But I didn't really. I feel I've been saying it like around my boyfriend and around just people in general, and they've been like I appreciate you, and I'm just like, oh well, no, I don't mean it like that. And I think I had an epiphany. I had an
You
epiphany, and
did?
I think I'm talking to myself.
Joseph!
I wanna.
Oh my god.
I know. I want to appreciate myself. I think that's it, and I'm kind of shook. Honestly, I'm kind of shook at that. And I've been holding that in. I've been holding that in, but you know what? I just want to be appreciated by me. So yeah, I don't yeah, I feel very appreciated by a bunch of people, including my boyfriend and V and my roommate and my dog, etc. But I think I want to be appreciated by me. So not to bring it too deep or whatever, but that's who I am this week. And that's who I am until the next episode.
Damn.
Who are
Okay.
you? Have you decided? They don't
I
have to be deep.
I kind of have. I think I'm a mixture of two memes this week.
Mm.
There's been a lot happening this week. I've been watching Schitt's Creek, which is so good. I will literally start crying like whenever I think about it too much. So that's fine. I'm on season 4, so nobody spoil it for me because I will like I usually don't even care about spoilers, but if anyone spoils this for me, I will fight you. But there's just a very good queer relationship in that show that means a lot. And like is giving me hope for love again. I don't know. So there's that, which isn't a meme, I know, but I have been tweeting an image of a cat with
Oh my
tears in its
god.
eyes, like yelling into a
Yes.
microphone.
Yes. You right now. That's literally what you look like right now.
Oh no! Oh no! I didn't even think about that. But yeah, so that's like one half of me, and then the other half is still reeling over Supernatural, which I don't want to
Oh my
talk about too
god.
much because yikes. But
Yikes.
um, I also feel like there's an image of Misha Collins playing Castiel where he's like confessing his love and has tears coming out of his eyes, and it's like slightly slanted and like flattened. And I also feel like that. And I feel crushed by that show, and I can't wait until next week when it no longer exists anymore.
Yeah, it's gonna be wiped out
So
of the face of the world.
actually,
Yeah.
wait, by the time we're putting this up on Tuesday, right? Oh no, it'll be just 2 days until Supernatural is finally over when this episode goes live. So
Until the evil is defeated.
until the evil is defeated.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm sorry. If you like Supernatural, I'm happy for you. It has crushed my soul in so many ways, and I cannot stand it. So, anyways, that's
Okay,
what I am this
let's
week.
leave it in the past. Yeah, let's leave it in the past. Okay, well that is beautiful. I think I explicitly love the crying cat with the microphone image because I really feel like it's you, and I and I love that. So next up, V, you can tell us everyone about who or how we came to be, since I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure you were the one who slid into the DMs, if you will.
I really did. I really did. I slid into the Tumblr DMs, which I think is amazing. Yeah, so we met on Tumblr. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was like 17, maybe. Um, Around then.
It was
We even
20 it was the end of 2014 maybe, or was it the big I
was
think it
it
was the
really?
I think it
It was the end
was.
of 2014. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like December 2014 or
Yeah,
something.
cuz I had my queer
Um,
year in 2015, and like you were there for all of that, I'm pretty sure. My queer year in
yes, I
books?
was. I
Yes.
was there. I think at the beginning of when you started your channel, or at least when you did the Friends song.
Yes,
with
that was
the
very early
boa.
on. So that was definitely like
Yeah.
the end of the yeah. Anyway, end of 2014.
To end of 2014. Excellent. And yeah, so I'd been on Tumblr for a while. And I was just kind of getting into queer book Tumblr, and I was already running YA Pride by then, which at that time was called Gay YA. And so I was already, I loved queer YA books, and queer books in general, but mostly YA books because I was a teen at that time. And then I found Joseph at the URL "The Boy Who Cried Books?" question mark.
Nope. Nope.
No,
I'm pretty well actually.
I think it
You might.
was.
I think you're right. Actually, I think I
Unless you
had.
changed it.
No, I think I had just changed it. Actually, it used to be because I was, I had such a beautiful name, obviously, but it was the mind of a fiction book lover. That was my full URL. But then I decided to brand myself as the boy who cried books, and so yeah. But go on.
That's amazing. I don't remember which one it was, but either way. And I think I just sent you an ask being like, oh my God, another queer A book lover. This is so exciting. This makes like 5 of us or something. And then you
Yep.
replied and we're like, yes. And then
Love. It's been love ever since.
yeah, love ever since. Love at first ask.
Ask.
Is
Yeah.
what they call them on Tumblr, I guess. um yeah, should I keep going?
Um, I mean, I can go a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
And since then, we have had just a beautiful relationship. It transferred over to Twitter, and we had a beautiful just friendship there. Especially with our friend Hannah. Beautiful,
Love Hannah so
beautiful,
much.
beautiful Hannah.
We tried to bully her into doing this podcast with us, but she said no, which is okay. We
I
respect her.
almost I almost said R.I.P. but she's not dead.
R.I.P.
So, but um, hi Hannah. So after our friendship went to Twitter, it really blossomed. And then we started texting all the time, and basically we're in love, and we're so gay, and we live like super far away from each other.
So
But
far
that's also
away.
like that's kind of like gay culture, like so
True.
and yeah, we're just two nerdy queers who are just super great friends who are trying to survive in the world together. And we wanted to create something together, and this is what we decided on.
Yes.
So I think we could take that little segue into you telling us a little bit more about the podcast. Specifically, I would like for you to tell us like where the idea came from and what the original idea was going to be.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, this podcast has been a long time in the planning and making. I think I originally texted Joseph about it in like January 2020. It is now November 2020. So like a whole year later, finally making our first episode. But it was something that I'd been thinking of doing for a while. I have always kind of been a nerd for history and really just like digging into the history of things that I care about, and queer YA is definitely something that I care about. So our original plan was to start with the quote unquote first queer YA book ever published and read chronologically through queer YA books since that point.
So the book that is usually regarded as the first gay YA novel is I'll Get There, It Better Be Worth the Trip by John Donovan, and that was published in 1969. Yes. But there are some reasons why that is regarded as the first one, and also reasons why V and I kind of want to go against that.
Complicate that idea.
Yeah, we're just some queers who love to complicate ideas. So basically one of the important things is YA as a genre, in terms of when that came to be, which was around the 60s. Generally, it really became to be like its own genre. So anything prior to that would not have obviously been regarded as queer YA, even though there was definitely books before that that had teen characters or young adult characters, experiencing queer things slash being just queer. But because they were published slash read in a time where YA wasn't a thing exactly, they're not like technically a part of that. Even though they are like the prototype slash the forefathers or fore parents, if we want to
Gross.
be, yeah, the four they thems, of of the queer YA books. So yeah, so YA really took off in around the 60s, and that was the time that book was published. And then since then, like, queer books slash more accurately gay YA books were published here and there, perhaps a book or two really a year, or at least that were like traditionally published, question mark. But that is no longer the case anymore, obviously. But again, something that we felt was super important was looking at exactly why, or not, we're looking exactly why that book is regarded as the first, and then looking even further back and seeing like what came before that, because it's not as if just out of the blue some random dude was able to publish a book about a gay teenager, um and that's it. Like, there was obviously people that came before him that wrote things that were basically along the same lines. So yeah, that's kind of from my perspective very what we want to do. And V, you can tell us perhaps some more, especially about like the historical context, in terms of, or like us wanting to really focus on the historical context and just dig up extra information about et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Um, and for me, I think, I kind of came into this project with the idea that I'll Get There, It Better Be Worth the Trip really was like the first and basically the only book at that point that had queer teenage characters in it. And then as we started researching more, it was very surprising to me to find other books that were published way earlier in some instances, that had queer teens in them. And that was, um, again, that was just a very interesting experience for me as someone who has like been reading and talking about why a queer YA and immersed in this community for almost like half of my life now, to just be like, wow, I did not know that these books existed. I'd never really heard of them. Even if I had heard of them, I hadn't realized that they had like teenagers in them specifically. Some of them are, called queer books, but um, no one really talks about them as queer YA books or books that could be considered in that history.
I
And
think, if I may, I
go for
think
it.
that it's so interesting to think about this, because like somebody someday sometime said this is the first gay YA book. And since then, like, other people have like cited that person and cited that person, and then and then it's just, that is just a fact. If you Google it, that is a
Mm-hmm.
fact. That is the first gay YA book. And like, while we understand and acknowledge obviously that yes, perhaps it is the first one that was a thing when that was the thing when YA was barely becoming a thing, and also that it was, perhaps a little more explicit than some other books have been. But it's too way too simple to just accept that fact as a fact, and not
Mm-hmm.
question it. And I feel like we haven't questioned it. I definitely, you and I both be, but I definitely have made like I made a video or two like mentioning that book in detail when I read that book, and explicitly saying it's the first one. And in my mind, it's kind of like it blows my mind, just like about generally anything, but honestly, but when now that we were saying like that was the first one, because we don't know, we the
Mm-hmm.
nothing is really the first one we know, but we won't get too meta. But um another thing is that like um I really wanted to like look at who these books were. I mean, sure, like I'm sure a lot of these books that we're going to be looking at in this coming season are going to be written by white people. I'm sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I also like we were this kind of was a little bit sparked when we were considering and talking about Go Tally on the Mountains. I think that's the
On the
correct.
Mountain, yeah.
Yeah.
James Baldwin.
James Baldwin's book, which is his first novel. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure because I read something in like the bio or something that said like this is the first novel. This was the novel he said he had to write first before he was able to write anything else, and it is explicitly about. It's about this young black teenager who, like, in a very religious home, and he has himself in like interviews or whatnot has said like this is obviously very based off of his own life, though I would also say that like a good amount of the book is very much about his family and from like different family members perspectives, but also like in a again a good amount of, or a good enough for me at least, amount of that book was about this boy's experience with his dad and also his experience in terms of religion, and I found it very queer, especially like the religious stuff. It was just like it was also very queer. But that book was published. Let me check.
1953, I think.
Yes, 1953. And so again, I was thinking why has this not been super spoken about?
Mm-hmm.
And is it because the author is a black author? I mean, perhaps like not, maybe not as explicitly, that might not be explicitly the reason, but it definitely plays a part in why it wouldn't be as regarded as perhaps John Donovan's book was. And I don't even know who he was yet. I mean, we'll get there. We're gonna learn all about him too when that episode comes around. But I definitely wanted to hear from the voices that were not as talked about, like that specific book in that specific story, because obviously people love to talk about James Baldwin in general and a couple of his other books, um but I think this is important. I definitely think his book, at least in some way, fits this criteria of like being about a young queer teen, um, and I don't think anyone really talks about that.
One of the reasons that I'll Get There Better Be Worth the Trip is regarded as the first book is because of the scholarship of Dr. Christine Jenkins and Michael Cart, who are both like basically like the foremost queer scholars, and have been sent for a few decades now. And they're both people that, I respect a lot. I was actually able to do a presentation with Dr. Jenkins a couple years ago, and that was an amazing experience. But and they, in their book, they had both the heart has its reasons, and I think the more recently revamped version of that, which is representing the rainbow. I think something like that. Um, and they talk about I'll Get There, Better Be Worth the Trip as the first queer YA book. And because there's so little other scholarship on queer YA, on historical queer YA, like that's pretty much the only um, source that people have. Like that, their books, the book that they wrote together is like what people use as a reference for historical queer YA literature. So I think a lot of people just read that and took that at took that as fact and went on from there. And again, like, I understand why they chose to start with that one and like say those things and whatever. But for me, like, again, when we did see, like, because they actually mention Go Tell It on the Mountain in that book, and they say like, oh yeah, like it kind of presents a teenage experience with gayness, but like it's not like really super explicit, and it's not technically YA, so we're not going to include that. And I think that for both of us was kind of like a little bit of a red flag, because it was just like, that's interesting. Like, just from the perspective of like being in the queer community and like looking at the history of our books, like it seemed like there was something to investigate there. So originally, after we learned about Go Tell It on the Mountain, and then a couple of other books published around that same time that had queer teenagers in them, we kind of thought, oh, okay, well, maybe we can stick with our plan of, mostly starting with I'll Get There, It Better Be Worth the Trip, and going forward from there, but maybe have like a prequel episode or something where we talk about like books that were published before then. And just, kind of do a general history on that, but not go super in depth since they weren't like really queer or whatever. And then I found a book. Someone tweeted this book to me. I should figure out who it was, because I would love to credit them. But someone told me about a book called Left to Themselves by Edward Prime Stevenson. And gosh, this book, it was very, very shocking to learn about. It was published in 1891, and it is about two teenagers who are not necessarily explicitly gay in the book, but were identified as gay by the author. He didn't use that term specifically because it wasn't really in use then, but and it was published for a teenage audience. So it like literally was a queer YA novel. And a combination of like finding some books like that was like made us want to do a kind of a complete overhaul of our plan for the podcast, because it was like, there is a long and extensive history here that no one has really dug into yet. And it seems important to learn more about these books and see like what they have to tell us about queer YA history and queer YA today. And I don't know, for me, I think like, and I think probably for both of us, but like, although the category of YA is obviously important, and like today, if there was an adult book that featured queer teenagers, I wouldn't immediately be like, oh, that's a YA book, because that's not how things work. But like, considering the history of queer YA, I think it's important to kind of broaden our horizon or broaden our scope of what we're looking at and looking into. I just think it's really interesting to learn about how people were writing about queer teenagers or teenagers experiencing queer themes or whatever, like throughout the 20th century and maybe even before that. Yeah.
So, in conclusion, for our first season, we are going to be talking about books from 1891 to 1969. We'll be looking at a myriad of books. We will be discussing the context of it being published, or what we can find about it being published. We will be talking about what the world perhaps looked like, probably more explicitly in America at that time for queers and queer teens. And we're just gonna really dive in and see what is up with these books that we really have no idea about, but really were the like stepping stone to really formulate the queer YA genre we have today, honestly. So again, the first book we will be reading is Left to Themselves by Edward Prime Stevenson. Yes. Okay. And then there'll be a whole bunch of other books. We will probably just post the list somewhere, perhaps on our website, perhaps under in the details of this episode. I don't know. You'll find them. Don't worry. But if you want to join us for that next episode and read the book as well, that will be great. You can look it up and find it and read along and be here for the discussion of it the next time we meet. Additionally, aside from this queer historical YA like deep dive we're doing, we also wanted to keep it a little current, a little up to date, and talk to friends, educators, bloggers, writers, authors, etc., about queer YA from their perspective, their history with queer YA, the part they are playing in it nowadays, perhaps, aka writers or bloggers, and why they do what they do, and all that fun stuff. So if you want to be a part of that, if you are generally a queer, generally a reader, generally perhaps a blogger and or queer writer, we would love to have you on. Additionally, perhaps if not this season, definitely on a future season of this beautiful podcast that we are making. And please send us a message, please email us. You can find us at From Queer Pages on Instagram and Twitter, but you can also just email us at fromqueerpages@gmail.com, and we would love that.
Also, so we've been doing a lot of research over the past few months to figure out what some of these books are that had queer teenage characters in them, but we don't know all of them, obviously. I think it's kind of frustrating to research it because there's pretty much no place where you can go that's like, oh, books that had queer teenagers in them prior to 1969. Like, you can't find anything that way. It's mostly just been us like um reading through various books that talk about queer literature in general, and just kind of reading between the lines to find out if there were teen characters in them or not. But all of that said, I think we've probably missed a number of them. So if you know of any, if you see our lists that we will eventually publish and are like, hey, also this one exists, please tell us. We are very interested in finding more of them. We probably won't be able to read through all of them for this season. We're going to kind of pick and choose between the ones that we find. And also, like, some of them are like pretty much impossible to get a hold of anymore because they're out of print or just very rare. But if you know of any, we would love to know about them.
And finally, we wanted to talk briefly about our Patreon. If you wanted to join us on Patreon to become a patron, to donate a couple dollars a month, that will help us with our podcasting endeavors, then we would fully, and very queerly appreciate that. We are going to be doing a mixture of things over there. We're going to be including perhaps our notes from the episodes and or just our research, because we're not going to be able to fit every single thing into the episode probably. And additionally, we're going to have just some fun queer things over there. Queer media discussions, perhaps little live reactions and or something like that. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be wonderful. I also will have stickers. I think I mentioned this earlier. I did mention it. and making stickers. I will be having some stickers available for some of our patrons if they are interested. And yeah, we would love your support there. And overall, we are so happy that you listened to this episode. We hope you stay tuned on our little queer YA journey. We definitely are excited, and we hope you are too. To conclude, I feel like I've said that a couple times, but to conclude, because gay people just never stop talking. But to conclude, our episodes will be out every 2 weeks. And you'll see. Just follow us on social media, as I said, at From Queer Pages. Just all no spaces, etc., 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 and you'll know the details. And we love you. So, any goodbyes you want to say, V?
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and rate and review it on whatever platform you're listening on. We would really appreciate it. You can also just feel free to reach out to us and tell us what you thought. Spread the news on social media, all of that. This is a fairly niche podcast topic, so we'd really love to get the word out about it to the people who are also excited about it. So yeah, I think that is it, and we will see you next time.